You're listening to the Racking Focus Podcast.
Welcome to the Racking Focus Podcast spoiler-free review of It Chapter 2. We just want to take a moment or two and share our thoughts about the film to see if we can entice you to either go see it or not. I'm here, John Doyle, with Josiah Blizzard, and we're ready to go. So, what do you have to say, bud?
First, I want to apologize. John forgot his mic, so we're going to use
my mic.
We're using this
shotgun
this Rode mic here. So,
and shortly, I'll have one of these gorgeous microphones.
Yeah, I just upgraded. It's nice.
It'll look really nice.
It's slick. You know, I'm going to start off by saying that I liked the first It better. I don't know how to not spoil this movie, so we're going to try and not spoil it. I think there's pacing issues in the middle. We talked about that a little bit in the full spoiler review. I think there's pacing issues. I think that the cast was amazing. I loved the transition from children to adults. I think Bill Hader as an adult Finn Wolfhard is pretty incredible. Yeah, they just kind of like evolved as Pokemon into this new upgraded version of themselves. Have you ever seen those memes where it's like it's Jesse Eisenberg into Andy Samberg, and they yeah, it felt like that a little bit. So it was fun to watch these adults play their these young actors' counterparts. And I think they were strongest when they were together. Unfortunately, they do this little split in the middle of the movie, and that's where it starts to kind of go off the rails for me a little bit, and then they kind of bring it back together towards Act 3. So that's my biggest qualm is the separation.
Yeah, you know, we have some beautiful imagery, some good cinematography. The directing of any individual sequence seems sufficient. The movie is wildly nostalgic. It's sentimental, and that alters it. But it's full of effective jump scares. There's no question that they use the tools of horror effectively. Yeah. So if you're looking to sit in a theater and jump in a dark room, as long as they turn the house lights off in the theater when we start the movie, that's great. Yeah. If you're not looking for that, if you're looking for more depth and drama, you're going to find some places where the pacing removes your ability to experience that.
For sure. Yeah, man, I can't believe they didn't turn those house lights off. I had to get up, guys, and turn off the lights in the movie theater that we were in.
And it wasn't just us. There was a movie theater full of people.
Yeah, yes, that was a good time. I want to say too that, and we talked about this in our spoiler review, was that I missed seeing more of Pennywise in this film. He's there. He's just there in a different way. I think I missed the aspects of Bill Skarsgård being much more charismatic from the first movie. It did not transition over in the same way. He plays, it's sort of I don't want to say he's a different Pennywise, but he's a different Pennywise than he played in the original film.
Certainly shot differently.
Yeah.
And as a result, we don't get some of what made that uncomfortable and terrifying and disturbing.
Yeah. Yes, he's much scarier to me in the first film than he is in the second film. And if you go see the film, you'll find out why I might think that way. And if you can't figure that out, then go listen to our spoiler review. But yeah, other than that, like I think there was just some pacing issues in the middle of the film, and that's where I would probably knock at some points for.
And there's some specific things we talk about in our spoiler-filled review about what could be removed from this film. And I think that the other thing I would say...
It's long.
It's long.
It's so long.
And it's a warning, like 2 hours and 50 minutes is a long time to sit in a theater. And once you add trailers at the beginning, now you're in a whole wonderland.
For 3 hours and 20 minutes.
And that's great. And it's powerful. And like we're going to watch The Irishman later. That's long. And we'll have that impact. And we'll see if that works. But this is definitely a movie where when you put it all together and think they did 6 hours to make this 1,000+ page novel, that maybe it's better served in a different format.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about would it be better as a miniseries of some sort?
And it's again why Castle Rock on whichever it is, Amazon or Hulu. Sorry, YouTube services. It really works because the episodic nature of it really places us in a position where we're relentless in the horror instead of having the rush. And what I want to say is I think that there's moments in between the horror moments when we see them together that feel hyper rushed. There's a hotel that they're in staying, and that's not a spoiler because you'd stay in a hotel when you go back to town. And the moments in that hotel that aren't about horror feel like everyone's running around.
It feels like they make quick pit stops to this hotel to pick up another thing or to carpool together to some location. Like I kind of wanted the hotel to be a creepy aspect to the film, and it just didn't play a part. Like the hotel is completely forgettable. Like I forgot they were even in a hotel. Gonna be honest, I think it would have been really cool to see the hotel take on a character of Pennywise and become this haunted house of sorts in a way.
Yeah, and ultimately the city needs, again, Derry needs to be under the influence of it in a way that in the first film is very effectively done, and here we see less of it. And so like we sound really negative, there's tons of really rock solid acting from both adults and kids, and there's some really interesting special effects, and the color grading is beautifully done.
For sure. The cinematography is great. Like, I mean, it's hard. Technically, all around, it's a great movie. It's long, and there's some pacing issues. And there's some, I think, just again, like I missed Pennywise being his creepy self. Like, it's just not as creepy to me in this film. And that might only be because it's a second movie, and I have expectation going into this. I watched the first one, and I had no idea what to expect. Didn't read the book, didn't watch the 2-part series from 1990, had no idea what the story was about. And going into that first film, like I was completely open to whatever was happening. And I loved the first movie. And so going into the second film, I had high hopes for this film. And it just didn't necessarily meet the same standards I was expecting it to meet. But it was still good. I would watch it again, I think.
And there were individual scenes that were fantastic.
Yes. The entire scene with Bev in her house, in her old apartment, is wonderful.
Well, and the scene with Bev in her flashback with her father is extraordinarily powerful.
Those kids are such good actors.
They're really, really good. And I think that you could say that's the same in the original, that they end up in the original movie version. So if you're a fan of Stephen King, you're going to love that they nail that book almost letter for letter.
Yeah, right.
If you're a fan of a rock solid, entertaining, dramatic movie, you're going to find some of those novel components distracting or slowing down to the experience.
Yeah, for sure. How would you recommend this movie?
So when we first saw it, and you can go check that out, this is really a review for us after some thought. So if you want to hear how we felt when we walked out of the theater versus now, you should go do that in the full podcast. But I right now, I would say, if you don't see this in a theater, you're not losing anything.
Yeah.
Save perhaps for sound. And if you want the impact of the group jump scare that can happen in a theater. But you could watch this just as easily at home, alone or with 2 or 3 friends, with a good sound system, and have a really wonderful experience. That'd be my feeling.
I 100% agree. This is not a movie you need to rush out and see. You're not going to miss this. If it left theaters tomorrow, you're not going to be disappointed from not seeing this in theaters. Just make sure that you're watching on a good sound bar, a decent sized TV. Don't watch on the size of your phone. You're not going to have the same experience, but you don't need a 60-foot screen to watch this movie. 50-inch television is fine with some headphones or with a sound bar or something like that. So,
and I'm going to be honest, you don't need this film to enjoy the first one. So if you like the first film, please, or if you haven't seen the first film, watch it without any, watch it. That's hilarious. Watch it, chapter 1, without having to have any commitment to watching the second one.
Yeah. Yeah, you can only watch the first one and you'll be fine.
Right, sort of like Pacific Rim.
You don't need to. With that, let's close out here.
That's good. Great. Let's get out of here.
We're going to get into Pacific Rim. Goodness. Guys, thank you for listening to this spoiler-free edition of the Racking Focus podcast. Please, we'd love for you to join in on the conversation. So head to our website, rackingfocuspodcast.com, and follow us on all of our social platforms, Twitter, Instagram. You can email us at rackingfocuspod@gmail.com. And please join our Facebook community where we talk about movies. And that's actually really all we do in that community. There is we talk about movies. So head to the website rackingfocuspodcast.com to find out where we live in other areas of the internet.
But we don't want you to come visit us at our homes.
No, we don't want you here.
Not really. We don't have like a Google map of our homes.
No, there's no pin.
That's right. So anyway, thanks so much for watching and listening. Remember to watch or listen the entire spoiler-filled review once you have gotten yourselves to the theater and seen it.
Thanks for listening to the Racking Focus podcast.